I'd sort of thought in my head, oh, maybe I could beat him. It just seemed such a small possibility. I just started crying when I finished.
Um, yeah, so you also have traveled a lot for these memory competitions. I think you have been to San Diego,
Yeah,
and that might have been one of the longest travel trips to a memory competition. Uh,
yeah, definitely.
mhm,
I've only been to there and Vienna for competitions, and also to China for a TV show.
mhm.
Um, but yeah, that was one of the best things is going to the XMT. It was called back then. It was like a face-to-face memory league competition. But I can't remember how many competitors, but maybe 16 was it? Um,
In,
something
in
like
in San
16
Diego, yeah, yeah,
competitors.
16 or 24, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
but that was just amazing to meet all those competitors and lots of other people that were there, and just um, do the competition over 2 or 3 days, I think it
mm.
was really, really amazing. So I hope we can do something like that again in the future.
Yeah, and I felt that this, but also this is what I wanted to ask you, that the China show, I mean, this has such a big audience,
Yeah,
doesn't it? And even the other shows which have been done in Europe, like Andrea has been on big shows, and Jonas, for example, Ben, of course, has been to big shows. But still, I mean, England was like the mother country, the first country doing memory sports. But right now, I couldn't name 5 active people from England. I mean, these big shows are there. People see it on TV. People know about it. But there is no transformation into more people doing it. What do you think?
yeah.
Why is that?
I don't know, but specifically in this country, I don't think people are that interested in brain things or mind things, because like when people have gone on, like Sweden's Got Talent or other country talent shows, the memory people have done quite well, but it seems like here they're just not receptive to that. People would just want to see people training dogs or people dancing. They're not interested in people being able to do clever stuff. That's just my very basic take on it, but it just seems that people don't find that stuff interesting here. I hope it can change. I think maybe it needs to be done in a different way, or presented differently somehow. But yeah, I think it's a very specific thing to the UK that it's just not popular. But I'd like to change that.
I mean, it's not just to the UK. I think it's also for other countries. If you look on the numbers of new competitors from these countries, it's really low. And of course, I agree on that. It looks like that maybe this is a European or Western thing. I feel like in Asia you have countries where you have big schools, like in Mongolia, for example. There are 1,000 students in this memory school, for example,
Yeah.
and
Mm.
maybe this is a difference that we in our countries don't appreciate these kind of sports so much. I don't know, but
Mm.
still, I mean, millions of people, if you count all them up on the TV shows in Europe, millions of people have seen that. And I mean, there must be more than 2 or 3 among millions. Otherwise, it feels really strange. So, why is that? Is it hard to find on the internet? Is it hard to get connected because it looks so strange and difficult in the beginning? What do you think?
I don't know. It feels like to me, it's all out there. If somebody wants to Google memory techniques or how to memorize stuff, or they want to find out about memory sports, it's all out there. Compared with 20 years ago when we well 30 years ago we couldn't just look stuff up. I only found out randomly because I found a book about it. But now it's all out there. So I think, well, if they're interested, why not find it? But I think, yeah, there's people who think it's too difficult for them. And then there's people who just think it would be kind of boring or stressful to sit and memorize. I mean, for me, it's not. It's the opposite. It's a very creative and quite relaxing in some ways thing to do. So yeah, maybe it's people just need to maybe try something very simple, like memorizing like a small thing. Maybe it's one of those where sometimes, like if I do a talk, I'll get people to listen to a story, and then I say, okay, you've just memorized the 10 biggest countries or whatever. That's a very easy way in, I think, for people to see that it's not difficult and it's not boring. It's just a different way of memorizing than they might have expected. So yeah, I think it just needs to be out there more and people see how it's actually done, because they see people on TV memorizing the cards and whatever, but they don't see what's going on in their head. So I think if there's more explanation maybe, or more just showing them how it's kind of creative and fun, then I think that maybe that would make a difference.
Yeah. I see on the forum, for example, a lot of people who say that that having more real life applications in memory sports would also help. Personally, I'm not a fan of that. I feel that the sport should work anyway. I always compare that with, you don't have to run. If you run 100 meters very fast, it doesn't help you shopping fast. Do you think it would be an important step or necessary, or what do you think? Is it necessary to have real life applications in memory sports?
I think for a lot of people that is important. For me, again, it wasn't important because I just wanted to compete from the start. I wasn't interested in memorizing my shopping list or stuff like that. I just wanted to memorize lots of numbers and see if I could do more than other people or whatever. But I think for a lot of people, it will be a good way in is to memorize some real life stuff, and then they'll see how fun it is, and then they might try the sport. But I think it's also, like you said, two different things. So hopefully both can grow at once. More people can discover memory techniques, but also more people can decide to join us at competitions. So yeah, I think they are separate, but hopefully we can use some approaches that will help them both to grow at the same time.
So maybe like some teaser competitions with real life applications, and then you give that for free, and they would say, okay, now next time you have to memorize a longer list of numbers. So like, that would be maybe working. There's a trophy in your background. From which competition is that?
That was from the MSO in London a few years ago.
A few years ago, okay.
Yeah, the MSO, for people who don't know, it's the Mind Sports Olympiad, which is held in London every year. And it's not just memory, there's card games and chess and various board games, all sorts of things, mental calculation as well. So I haven't been for a few years because it always coincides with my holiday. And obviously during the pandemic, they didn't have one, or they had something online, but it wasn't quite the same, and I don't think there was memory. But yeah, it's really fun, and the medals are really nice too. So I got the trophy, but also you get really nice medals. So yeah, I hope to go to one of those again in the future. I do have other trophies, but they're in a different room.
Cool. Yeah, I guess you have a lot of them. So when you talk about the MSO, what I found interesting is if you compare the memory sports category in terms of how many people are competing there and other board games, other stuff. What do you think? Is it, or could you say that it's more in backgammon, or can you compare that?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't like involved in the other events, so I don't know, but I'm pretty sure there were a lot more, because I've seen photos and there was a whole room full of people playing like Settlers of Catan and whatever. Yeah, especially things like the most popular board games and things like Othello. I think were really popular. Mental calculation, I think, was possibly even more popular than memory, but still maybe not massive. I don't know. But we did get a few people just dropping in because they were going to this Olympiad for other events, and then they saw memory and thought, oh, that looks fun. So that was quite cool to get people who weren't really regular memorizers, but just thought they'd give it a go, and that was really nice to meet them and to sort of encourage them to try memory techniques. So yeah, it's a really cool event, but it's a shame that not more people are trying memory. So maybe there needs to be, like, we can make websites where people can try out memory techniques easily, because obviously, you know, the IAM software is great for competitions, but it's not something that beginners can try out and just memorize something really fun, like really easily. They can't easily find an option to just memorize 10 numbers or something. So yeah, I think that there are a few websites like that about, but I think more things like that could encourage people to try.
And I always ask people here on this talk about their absolutely highlight and low light during their memory techniques experience. So it's not just about competitions, can be everything. And yeah, what would you name as your highlight? Would you say is that?
I think it would have to be the XMT in San Diego. I'm not sure which one, both of them really, but yeah, just that intense competition, and like there was one where I got a couple of world records in the Memory League events, which was really nice to do under that pressure, and just to meet all those competitors and hang out and go to restaurants with them and all that kind of thing. It was just really fun.
Okay, so it's really not just the competition then, but also the whole community sitting together in San Diego, going there, and you talked about the pressure. The pressure is different, or was different than if you would compare it with other competitions. Yeah,
because for a start, it was the prize money. So it was like you get through to a certain round, you get a different level of prize money. So obviously you wanted to get as far as possible. And just because it wasn't like the matches we have now in the slams and things like that. It was, you play each person in your group, I think, once in every discipline, and you then got a table and see how you get in the table, and then you go through to the next round, which was more like a knockout. But yeah, the matches worked a bit differently, and because everybody was watching as well, there were people watching at the side. So whereas now when I compete, I'm just in a room on my own. But there was people at the side of you, and obviously everyone was being quiet, but it was a lot of pressure to try and compete in those circumstances. But it just felt like normal, because we were used to competitions where we'd be in a room full of people, so it didn't seem that weird. But I think now it would seem very strange to be surrounded by people sat at the side of me when I'm memorizing. But yeah, it would be cool.
How nervous have you been for the first game in this XMT back then? Do you still remember that? The first time you have to go up on stage, now everyone is watching you and you have to compete. How was that?
Yeah, I don't remember the details of the match, but I think it might have been like Perevja from Mongolia. He was definitely in my group, but yeah, it was really, really scary. And when they call your name and say it's time for your match now, and you have to go up there and just get on with it. But it is scary, and you have to also know how fast to go. And it's like you had to make that decision. And in those days, we had a blue screen when your competitor finished. They pressed finish, and there was a blue screen, so you could see when they'd finished. And that, I think, added to the nerves as well. But yeah, I was very, very nervous. But sometimes in a competition, it actually it helps me, I think, and I get better recall. Even though I think it sometimes messes up the timing and the locations. Sometimes when you're nervous, things like that can go wrong. But I think in terms of things sticking, the recall is often better for me in a competition because of the adrenaline or something.
Have you been to the DoubleTree Hotel as well?
Yeah, so I stayed there both times. Very nice.
You got cookies?
Cookies?
Yeah, you always get cookies when you're entering the hotel. There was this guy on the reception who said, "We have new cookies today," and there was always fresh from the oven. You didn't get them?
I didn't get cookies.
Yeah, it's a shame, because it was really cool. I ate too much cookies back then, but it was really so enjoyable to be there and have this kind of big competition. That was really cool. What would be your low light if you can name one?
It would have to be when I lost to Simon in international names.
Really? Okay.
No.
I have to look back on the video feed here for that and check that out. No, but yeah, was it really something where you said, okay, that was bad, or why? Why is that?
No, I mean that was annoying, but
Of course it is.
there obviously been worse things. Not necessarily things in competitions, but stressful situations and things, but not really. In competitions, I think the World Memory Championship in Vienna was in some ways a bit of a low light because I didn't do very well in most events. I fell asleep in our numbers, which isn't good.
You fell asleep while memorizing or recall?
I can't remember which, but either way, not good. I didn't do as well as I hoped.
Well, why do you think was that? I mean, I feel that during memorization you have this meditative state somehow, kind of, and you're creative, you are in the zone somehow. But of course, it might be also that you're just like, you're going to dream then instead of memorizing anymore. So
yeah, I mean, even at home, if I try just like memorizing stuff, maybe not when I'm training, but if I just try memorizing a list of things, or if I'm going through my locations in my head, I quite often fall asleep. So I think it's just the way it affects your brain. I don't know the exact reason, but yeah, it happens a lot to me. So I wasn't too surprised that I fell asleep in a competition, but
okay.
It was, I didn't perform to my best.
Have you ever memorized during your dreams?
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes I'll see some numbers and I'll come up with the images, and when I wake up, I'll be sort of thinking of the images, and I think, oh yeah, I was memorizing a number, and yeah, it happens from time to time.
And do you still know it well afterwards? Because people tend to forget their dreams very fast. Do you know?
Yeah, no, I mean, if it happens, it's normally just a small chunk of numbers or something. So yeah, I remember it, but it's not surprising because it's something that I'm doing every day, or it's part of my life. So it's not surprising I would dream about it, really.
Yeah, right. So once I got the lottery numbers for next week, and I tried to memorize them, and I did, but I played them and I didn't win. So maybe I mismemorized something there. So. What I also wanted to talk a bit about is we have right now political situation in memory sports. We have the IEM, we have the WMSC, we have the GAMA. So it's so many different stuff. How do you see that situation, and what would you like to see here maybe in the future?
It obviously. Because back then when the IAM started, I was one of the people that was involved with that. So yeah, that's of course something that I wanted. I wanted the IAM to be more democratic and just a different way of doing things. And I'm happy with how it's going. And although I'm not on the board, I think they're doing great work, and it's all how we wanted. But obviously it's sad in some ways that the memory world is split, because no one really knows like who is the best at speed cards, or who's the best at words or whatever. There's a lot of discussion about who's really the best, because all the world rankings are separate. So that's a bit of a shame. And obviously in terms of resources, like obviously there's limited resources in the world of memory, and we're all kind of splitting our resources between 3 different associations, which isn't ideal, but it kind of works. Also, it's people can go to whatever competitions they want, and I'm happy going to IAM competitions, and so it's a shame that everything's split, but I think it had to happen, and maybe that will change in the future. I don't know, but I'm enjoying at the moment the IAM competitions a lot.
Cool. What do you think? What would be an idea to rejoin forces? I'm thinking about that a bit more in the past, because I also feel exactly it's somehow annoying to see, okay, there's someone breaking a record, but we don't recognize it. And I don't know any idea how to rejoin forces. Back in the Middle Ages, people were marrying each other. I don't think that will work. But so, what are we going to do here?
Yeah, we have to unite the houses, as they used to say in the medieval times. I think it would have to come from I guess partly from the people in charge to be in agreement about what they actually want and what their priorities are, because I think that's the difference. Is a difference in priorities, perhaps. So I think that's the biggest thing. It would have to also come from the competitors, but I think if people are happy with the competition and with who's in charge, then I think they would be happy to go to whichever competitions are being run. But I think it has to be an agreement between the people in charge having the same vision for memory, which I don't think is the case, at least with the IM and the WMSC at the moment. But I don't really know much about the WMSC at the moment, so I don't know who's exactly running it and what's happening there. But yeah, it would have to be they would have to be really in agreement about their vision.
Okay, so we have to bring everyone to a big table and just talk.
Yeah,
and see what happens. I don't know either. Yeah, and let's see if there's any chance, because I also feel that might be it's important to join resources here, because it's already tough enough to get things running here. And so now we are coming back to out of the pandemic somehow. What is your next real life competition? Any plans for that?
So like I said, I missed the UK competition this year because I was in America at the time. But I hope to go next year if it works out. I think there also might be a slam around the same time though, so I might do that instead. I don't know. But yeah, maybe I can make it to somewhere in Europe for a competition at some point. We'll see. But yeah, no concrete plans at the moment. But I am starting to try and train my longer disciplines and remember all my long journeys, just in case I get the opportunity, because it's kind of like a catch-22 situation. I don't train my long disciplines because I think there's no competitions to go to, and then when there is a competition to go to, I think, well, I haven't trained my long journeys, so there's no point turning up. So I need to just train them, and then
are they still working? Are they still working, these long journeys? Did you try them somehow? Because I feel really rusty now, and I have to recreate some of them already. What about?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it feels like that. I should really go again and check them out, because it feels a bit like going away, fading away somehow after 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I do use my sections of my long journey for memory league, so it's like the beginnings of my journey are great because I use them for memory league, but it's like the end bits really like don't remember them. So I have got them in a spreadsheet so I can reread them and try and learn them again. So what I'm doing at the moment is called training without training, because like I said, I don't get much uninterrupted time to sit down and train. So instead of doing that, I'll just generate some numbers, and then throughout the day, I'll just add them into my journey, like two images per location, like for numbers, for instance, or in cards, I'll do something different. But so I'll place the images in the location, not really try to memorize them, but throughout the day, I'll just work through my journey. And then at the end of the day, I'll just see how far I got. Hopefully the next day I get a bit further. But it just helps me to go through the journey every day to a certain point and try and get a bit further and just reacquaint myself with the journey again.
Okay.
So it's a way of like training when I can't really train properly.
Just moving through your journeys and putting things on there to keep them fresh and cool. It's a nice approach. It's a nice idea. I think I should copy that. And what about age? You are one of the most experienced competitors in the field. And what do you think what influence has it already an influence on you? What, do you think that, or yeah, what is your take on that? Because you see like Andrea and Emanuele, they're all like 20, 21, 22, and Naoki. And for me, it's like, it's really cool to compete with these people because they are just almost another generation, which is a bit strange. Now we are now in an age where another grown-up generation is already out there, so we are not the youngest grown-ups anymore. And what do you think on that, about that?
I don't think it's changed my ability to memorize. I don't think it's getting worse as I'm getting to mid 40s. But I think it's just that students and young people have a lot more time to train. That's what I think it is, and perhaps more resources to get to competitions, I guess. Whereas it's different for people who have full-time jobs and perhaps families. It's not really as easy to devote so much time to just memory training, because I don't know, I always feel a bit selfish if I think, well, I want to go and train, but then I should really like tidy the house a little bit or something. So I end up doing that rather than training. But yeah, I don't think age has affected me so far. So I hope for a long time that will continue. And it's great to see, like, when Simon's competing, like he's around the same age as me, and it's great to see that he's still able to compete with the very best, and you too. It's just great that it's not so much of a factor as people might think.
Okay, I agree on that. Do you have any kind of other things you do for yourself, like getting better food or making more sport or anything like that right now, because of you're a bit older now?
I wouldn't say I do it because of my age, but I just because I've got into a good routine with fitness. I go running, and I do like a boxing class, which is really quite tough. So I I do keep healthy, and I try to eat healthily just because of allergies. So I make sure that I'm eating the right things, which is not because of my age. It's just because I've finally worked out a good routine and a good diet for myself. So it's just, I think it all helps. Everything that makes you more healthy in some way helps your brain. So I do whatever I can.
Cool. And one last thing, people on memory sports, we see them here more often now with cameras and stuff, and people are not really emotional most of the time. It looked like that. I saw there was a match against Alex, and that was it felt really different. Watching you here, it really looked like that their emotions are coming here, and how was that?
Well, obviously Alex and Andrea have been at the top, still at the top just for so long that it just feels almost impossible to ever beat them. I mean, I have beaten Alex once or twice before, but I've never beaten Andrea. But just to beat Alex in such like an important match, I think it was the semi-final, right? I'd sort of thought in my head, or maybe I could beat him. It just seemed such a small possibility. So when it happened, and I think it had been a really long match as well, and it was very hot. I was, I think it was in the middle of summer, or like spring. I don't know, but it was very hot in this room. I remember when I was playing Alex. And I think I just started crying when I finished. I don't know. It's not really happened before, but and even though most of the time I don't show that much emotion, it's like I'm still feeling it inside. But I think we're used to the traditional competitions where we have to stay quiet, and we do like cheer at the end if we did well. But it's I think things are different now because we're just in a room by ourselves. So if we cheer or talk to ourselves during the match, it's okay. But yeah, it takes a while to get used to that. But yeah, I don't know. I just didn't really expect to beat Alex in that match. So yeah, it was great. I was really happy. I guess that's one of my highlights, really, because I really wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe emotion is something we really need to establish a bit more among athletes, because that also brings us closer to the audience, right? So if we show something here, and for example, Andrea is more like, for me, like a kid of the newer competitions, like the memory competitions, and he is showing emotions all over the place, always. While Alex, you just see him not much many emotions, sometimes very, very rare, but yeah, maybe we should establish that more, that everyone is doing it. I don't know. I mean, it's a bit weird to shout out in front of your computer, but it might help as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, different personalities as well. It's
Sure.
like, you know, when you watch tennis or something, some of the players like shouting at themselves when they lose a point or something, and some of the players don't show that much emotion. I think it's nice for the audience to see different personalities and to get to know the athletes, and to, you know, it's exciting when you've got different personalities and they know the competitors really well and they know what to expect. I think that's it makes it more interesting.
Right. So yeah, Katie, thank you very much for your time today. If you would name one person or maybe a group of people who I should invite next, what would be your first thought?
Have you invited Don?
Not yet. Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm making my life a bit easier. I'm just asking people now and then I'll get the next one, like giving the stick to the next one. Yeah, thank you. Katie, thank you very much for your time. And anything else you want to add for today's interview?
Not really. Just if anyone was watching, then thank you for watching. And thank you for all you do for the memory community with your streams and shows. It's really fantastic. So yeah, we appreciate it.
Thank you. And how people could reach out to you if they want to?
So I'm on Twitter, KK Memorize, or on Facebook.
I will link to Twitter.
I've got a website as well, katiekermode.com. So
good. Yeah. Okay, so everyone check it out. Thank you, Katie. Have a nice evening, and
you too.
See you around here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.